Hey guys, Elle here, welcome back. I decided to separate out my tips for astral projection into two videos actually. This one right now is going to be tips to help you learn to astral project, and then in the next video we'll go over, some things that can help you once you're there, once you're out of body. So the very first thing that I would recommend doing if you are interested in learning to astral project, or if you're already practicing even and maybe having a hard time, even if you've already sort of gotten out and experienced it before but are having a hard time maybe repeating it, I think that the number one most important thing that you can do is to just read every single thing that you can get your hands on, whether it's reading websites and blogs or watching videos. What you need to sort of do is get to this place where your brain is completely overloaded with astral projection, out-of-body experience information. I have a few books here I'm going to go through real quick. I actually have a shit ton of books actually, but I won't go through all of them. Some things that I would recommend, but honestly in the end it really doesn't even matter what you read. It's all about just sort of overloading your brain with information about this stuff, so that it's still on your brain, very, very much so, when you go to practice. Yeah, I read every single thing that I could get my hands on for years and years and years. I actually haven't gone about buying new books on out-of-body experiences and astral projection in maybe 10 years, so everything I'm showing you here is kind of older. I don't even know really what's come out in the last few years. I'm sure there's been some amazing stuff. But I have sort of enough to draw from myself. One of my favorite authors is a guy named Robert Bruce. These are two of his books. This book, by the way, now I do know that it looks very, very different. It's been very much revised. I've heard the new edition is just as fantastic as this one though. But Robert Bruce, and that is Astral Dynamics. It goes over friggin' everything you could possibly want to know about astral projection. It's an amazing accomplishment. And then he's got this one too, which I thought was really interesting. I had a lot of fun with that, Mastering Astral Projection. It's more of a guidebook. It takes you through how long is it? Oh, it's a 90-day guide to astral projection. So there's an exercise and different things you're supposed to do on every single one of those 90 days. Amazing. And then there's all sorts of other stuff here too. These are two of my favorite authors. These are two books by William Bowman, and then these are two by Robert Peterson. What are these called? Out-of-Body Experiences, How to Have Them and What to Expect, and then Lessons Out of the Body for Robert Peterson, and then William Bowman's are Adventures Beyond the Body and The Secret of the Soul. His second book is Using Out-of-Body Experiences to Understand Our True Nature. They both sort of have one book about how to do it and about their own experiences, and then one more where they sort of delve a little bit deeper into maybe what it all means, But Jesus, I just literally, even if I didn't love the book in the end, I would still recommend you guys reading them, because it's really just about oversaturating your brain and becoming obsessed with this sort of stuff. Astral Odysseys, little guides to out-of-body experiences, out-of-body exploring. Some of the old ones are fantastic too. This guy and these are two old ones that are really sort of classics, right? The Projection of the Astral Body, Leaving the Body. And then, of course, at some point, you're probably going to want to get your hands on Robert Monroe's book. These are the classic treatises on out-of-body experiences. He's the founder of the Monroe Institute, which I'm sure I'll mention a few times throughout these videos. Robert Monroe, amazing. And then there's books by students of his, and I'm going to friggin' stop now because there's just too many. There's even one more thing. There's even books you can read on people's pseudo out-of-body experiences where they talk more about shamanic journeying or stuff like this guy. I love Kurt Leland, A Field Guide to Non-Physical Reality for the Out-of-Body Traveler. The possibilities are just endless. There's so much invaluable information out there that you can get your hands on. And of course now you don't even have to buy this ginormous book. You can get it for your Kindle. Shit, one more even for all you pagans out there. This is a friggin' awesome book. It's called Flying Without a Broom, Astral Projection and the Astral World, written by DJ Conway. She's written some amazing books on paganism, right? Love her. So some other ways that you can sort of keep astral projection on your brain at all times is, this actually comes from a book on lucid dreaming, I think, but it's a way of checking to see if you're awake, and you're supposed to do it throughout the day. So like whenever you come up to a solid object, say a table, you're supposed to check to see if you can put your hand through it, right? And you know, if you train yourself to do this throughout the day, you'll even start to habitually do it at night when you're dreaming, which is the intention behind this particular exercise. So that when you're dreaming, you'll go and check something, and then you'll actually, oh shit, I am dreaming, and you'll become lucid in your dream. So the same thing is true if you're trying to astral project. And I did these exercises for a long time when I was learning. Every single time I would sit in a chair, I would imagine myself floating through it right to the floor because I wasn't in my physical body. And I would always do those checks on a table or a wall or any flat surface, just sort of imagine what it would be like to mush through it if I wasn't in my physical body. Yeah, those checks, things like that you can keep on your brain throughout the day are just invaluable. And now there's lots of other different checks that you can sort of do throughout the day too. If you read enough books or check out enough websites, you'll find all sorts of different techniques that you can do to sort of remind yourself to be, I don't know, astrally present throughout the day. Especially the lucid dreaming ones. Those are really good. Take those for yourself. The are you awake sort of checks throughout the day just really remind me that you know, we're gonna go there later and be able to do some really cool shit. It's all about keeping astral projection really, really on your brain, so that when you do go and do your attempts, the intention is still there. It's very, very much prevalent. Don't ask me why, but it really, really helps. You know, if it's just sort of a passing interest, it's almost like there's not enough intention, like there's not enough willpower or force behind it to actually see it through and make it happen. So when is a good time of day to practice astral projection? I think that most people say sort of in the morning, actually, after you've gotten a good night's rest is a really good time to practice. However, that has never, ever been able to work for me. Remember, the goal is mind awake, body asleep. And if I have just spent an entire night sleeping, my body is no longer tired. Like, it's not going to go back to sleep. Just not going to happen. So honestly, my very first, and probably for that first couple of years, most of my astral projections did take place right before I fell asleep. You know, my body was tired. I was able to go there. I certainly don't recommend it as the only time that you practice is when you're actually going to bed anyway, because most of the time you really will. You'll just fall asleep. You're tired. What I did for that first sort of 2 or 3 years back in the beginning was I would actually set my alarm clock for probably about 4 or 5 in the morning, whatever time it would be that I had already gotten maybe 4 or 5 hours of sleep. So I was well rested, you know, my mind got a chance to relax, do its thing and drift off to La La Land. But my body still was sort of tired, you know, it's not 8 hours of sleep. It's not really fully rested yet. So what I would do during those times is I would get up out of bed, I would walk around a little bit, sort of wake myself up a little, certainly go to the bathroom, maybe drink a little water, and then I would spend maybe 5 or 10 minutes reading, you know, an astral projection book or something about out-of-body experiences, just to keep it fresh in my mind too. And then I would lay back down and attempt, you know, and go through the whole process. About the time that I was doing this too, I would sort of have like a 50-50 shot, like a 50% chance I'd fall back to sleep and a 50% chance that it would actually work at that time and I would be able to get out into the astral. By the way, I would still always practice too every time that I went to sleep. Sometimes during the day, just randomly in the middle of the day too, but definitely every time that I went to sleep because shit, why not? It's the perfect opportunity to just give it a shot, even if you just end up falling asleep in the end. So speaking of fucking with your sleep schedule a little bit, the turning point in my astral projection practice happened for me after I finished nursing school, right? So I get out there, and my very first job in the field happened to be working overnights. At first it was 8-hour, like 11 to 7 shifts, and then later it was overnight, like 12-hour shifts. But either way, what started to happen, because at that point it had already been a couple of years of me training myself to stay awake while my body fell asleep and be able to astral project, And then that in conjunction with this really fucked up sleep pattern that I had developed from sleeping here and there and everywhere from working those odd hours, was every single time that I closed my eyes, whether it was to take a nap or to astral project or just to go to sleep at night, every time I closed my eyes, I would find myself in that vibrational state and able to get out of my body without ever setting any intention at all. It was fucking amazing. I had some of the most powerful, enlightening, wonderful astral journeys of my entire life during that period of a few years. So after the few years that this sort of went on for, I got to a certain point where I was like, enough is enough. I'm exhausted. I was completely and utterly exhausted. I was not getting enough sleep. I was constantly astral projecting, which made me sort of nervous to kind of fall back to sleep because I knew I didn't really want to do it. And then of course it brought up all this weird like feelings of guilt too, because I had read of so many people's experiences who were having such a hard time astral projecting. And then I even thought of myself, a few years before, who would have given anything to be able to astral project without even trying. Like, oh my God, what are you doing? Why are you like returning this awesome gift that you've been given? But I did. I had to return it. I was completely exhausted. So that's when I started, learning how to sort of stop it from happening. That's how I discovered that, laying on your side or curling up in the fetal position can sort of stop things from progressing. I would still find myself sometimes in the vibrational state, but it made it, laying in that position, made it very, very hard to actually lift out. And then soon after I realized too that eating, not just a little bite of something, like eating almost a meal right before you go to bed will completely stop the process in its tracks. Like I never would even get to the vibrational state if I just ate something before I attempted an astral projection. Again, I'm not really sure why the eating thing actually stops this from happening, but it does. It worked. I don't know. So where you practice also can be sort of good to think about. I think that there's a lot of truth to it when people say that you shouldn't do it in your bed because you are so trained because of you've been doing it your entire life, right? To go to sleep when you get into bed. It's habitual. It happens. So having said that, honestly, my first few years again of astral projecting all happened from my bed. But I did do this and it really helped, I think. When I would go to sleep, I would face, head on my pillow, normal side of the bed. When I was astral projecting or practicing or attempting or whatever, I would flip myself around and I would put my head where my feet usually go and my feet where my head usually go. So I think just mixing it up like that actually really helped. It was just something a little different. There's also, that thing that everyone says where, because it's habitual also, when you lay flat on your back, that you're sort of trained to go to sleep then too. So I do try to prop myself up a little bit. It just really helps. Like now I astral project from either my sofa or my recliner. And when I am on my sofa, I'll prop myself up a little bit. The recliner is already in like the perfect position. I don't know why, but keeping yourself up a little bit just keeps it's easier to keep your mind awake. It just works. And I am much more trained to just fall asleep if I'm completely flat on my back. Yeah, sitting up just even that little bit can really sort of help you stay conscious while your body falls asleep. Mind awake, body asleep. So my next one is, I already talked about it just a little bit, but the next one is do not eat before you attempt astral projection. Like I said, I don't know really why. It almost has this super grounding effect. It's like if these biologic imperatives like digesting your food or like having to go to the bathroom, honestly, if you have a full bladder, you will never be able to astral project. It keeps your consciousness, your astral form, your self sucked into your body. Maybe so it can do those things, digest the food. I don't know. If anybody has an opinion out there, please let me know why this happens. But I have definitely found it to be 100% true. I just can never get out if I've eaten anything substantial for probably like 3 hours is usually what I try to do, if not longer. But at least 3 hours seems to be a good amount of time to not sort of eat before. It's like it's too heavy like it holds you back or something. It's constricting. I can drink a little bit of water. That's absolutely no problem. Drinking, or even drinking something else, you know, iced tea or whatever, it's all sort of fine. Even a little caffeine usually doesn't keep my body shaky or anything like that. You just don't want to drink enough that it'll make you, you know, have to go to the bathroom. I actually think that's why I had a hard time astral projecting for the first couple of months that I was trying, because I would eat something before I tried it would sort of calm me down. Eating always relaxed me a little bit, made me feel a little bit more safe. But yeah, don't do that. So also, I talked about this a little bit before too, but the position when you're in your bed or your sofa or your recliner or whatever can be really, really important. You can absolutely 100% still project or astral project if you're laying on your side or laying on your stomach. Like, these things happen, but I have never really been able to do it. It is really, really hard. The only way that I'm ever super easily able to get out is when I am flat on my back or like in a reclined position. Also, having any body parts crossed can really throw you off too. Like, you don't want your legs crossed. You certainly don't want your arms crossed or even draped across any part of your body as you're trying to do it. The weight or the pressure on your body for some reason is very distracting, and it almost weighs you down. It makes it really hard to separate when it comes time to separate after the vibrational state. Even a blanket can almost get in the way, a heavy blanket, like especially if it's got like your feet scrunched down into it, you know, like it's tucked into your bed or something. Yeah, if you do get cold, because I'm sure being too cold or too hot is definitely going to keep you in your body, and keep you from having an out-of-body experience. But if you do, I've definitely done it plenty of times with, you know, regular clothes on, but also with like a light sheet or a light blanket sort of draped across me very, very lightly. None of that ever gets in the way, but it is a distraction when there's too much pressure on your body in certain places. You know, it will keep you from having an out-of-body experience. So other than the couple of things that I talked about in the very first video on how to actually astral project, which was, you know, things like just stay calm through the entire experience, especially through the vibrational state experience. That's really all the tips I have to sort of help you get out and help you astral project. You know, it's all about practice and repetition, you know, practice, 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 and anybody can do it. You will definitely get out. Keep trying. You're on the right track. So stay tuned. In the next video, I'm going to give some tips and advice that I have for, you know, things to do once you successfully astral project.